with your host, Scott Hardy. And your phone calls at 256-234-6221. Presented by Bland Insurance Group. Big on savings, big on service, big on community. If it's sports in the Lake Martin area, we cover it. The Lake Martin Sports Roundup, right now.
Good Tuesday evening, everyone, and welcome into the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup, live here on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill. This segment is brought to you by Alliant Bank, and we appreciate them as well as the rest of our sponsors for being participants of the show. Good Tuesday evening. We have a packed house here at JR's. 256-234-6221 is the number to dial in, and our question of the night is, what area team is playing the best right now? And Benjamin Russell and Dave will both with big victories on Friday night. Benjamin Russell taking care of Chelsea 42-13, and Dave with a huge win over number one ranked Leeds 20-14. And I know that Randy and I will be able to dive into both of those games. But running down the show, we'll discuss Benjamin Russell versus Chelsea and how that game went on Friday night. Again, a big game from Tyree Gray, this time with his feet more so than his arm, but that has been the trend here of late. We also will break down Dable versus Leeds, as I said, and at 6:15, we'll have Kevin Kill, who is the play-by-play announcer for the Dable Tigers, and I can't wait to get some of his insight and what he thought about Friday's game. Again, it was a great defensive battle, and again, David was able to take care of business. Horseshoe Bend versus Ramburn. Horseshoe Bend on the tail end of a losing skid here that has seeded 2 or 3 games, and I think that with the schedule that they have coming up, it's going to be tough to get some victories, but they've been playing really good football and playing tough as well. Reeltown versus Woodlawn. Reeltown taking care of business as usual, and Central Coosa versus Beulah. You hate to see Central Coosa go out the way that they did, but they had a chance to push it to overtime, but it looked like that was what was going to happen. But Beulah with a last-second Hail Mary able to take the victory there. So we hope that the Cougars can get off the snide and get their first victory coming up this week. We'll also break down some Alex City athletics. We will have a flag football team here representing the Alex City Youth Parks and Rec, and we can't wait to have them up as well. The first year that we've offered that here in Alex City, so can't wait to have Coach Blake Self up here and his staff and see how the season's been going. We'll also talk about the upcoming matchups this Friday, and as always, we'll talk about the Lake Martin area athletes. Had a chance to go over to Starkville on this past Saturday, and although the game didn't go out how I would have hoped as an Auburn fan, had that chance to see Kendall Graveman get spotlighted during the first quarter of the game, and they recognized him, so congratulations to him, and we'll break that down. But we're up against our first break of the evening. More of the Lake Martin Sports Roundup show live here at JR Sports Bar and Grill right after this.
You're good. 3, 2, 1. Take it away.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup. Randy Lee alongside Scott Hardy. 800-782-0108, 256-234-6221. Love to hear from you out there. Here in the Lake Martin Sports Roundup, we talk nonstop about the local area athletes. So if you've got kids that are out participating in sports, if you'd like to call in and talk about some of the high school games that you've been out and participated in, we'd love to hear from you. 256-234-6221. I just got through stuffing my belly, and there's not a better place in Alexander City to come out than downtown Alexander City. JR Sports Bar and Grill, always great food, Scott.
Yeah, so much to choose from, but here of late you've been stuck on the same thing. You've got me on one of their sandwiches here, but yes, JR is always a great place and great atmosphere as always.
Scott, let's move over. We were on the road this past week, Benjamin Russell taking on Chelsea High School. Chelsea, unfortunate for them, moved off to a 5-0 start to kick the season off. Then they saw Opelika come in, and I talked to some of their administrators and coaches, and they got slapped around a little bit by Opelika and knocked off their feet and really never responded in that football game. Opelika defeated them 60-14 2 weeks ago. Our Wildcats come in. We've only got one loss to Opelika as well, so it's a huge region matchup going up there this past Friday night. Thought it could be close, but I knew that if we played physically on the offensive and defensive fronts, it could happen like we saw it happen. And I tell you, Tyree Gray put on a show this past weekend. 12 carries, 250 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. He'll be one of the spotlight players in the state of Alabama this week. Outstanding outing, and I can't say enough about Q Johnson, Pac-Man Norris, the rest of that offensive and defensive front. I said it on air, and I'll get your take on it, but this is the most improved Benjamin Russell team from game 1 to game 7 that I can remember in my lifetime. And that's saying a lot, but it is truthful. And I can remember back probably 30 years worth of high school football in this city, and I'm telling you, this team, I wouldn't want to draw them in the first round of the playoffs. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we were talking about that before the show started, and as you said, the Wildcats moved to 7-1, 3-1 in the region. Since the loss against Opelika, you talk about game 1 against BC Rain, but since the game against Opelika, I think they've been one of the better teams in the state. They've grown each week, and defensively, they're just as good as they've always been. But I thought that there was going to be a little struggle on the offensive side of the ball early on in the season, but Tyree Gray, as you said, is matured so much and progressed as a quarterback, and is not only as a quarterback but as a leader of the team. You can tell that they are supporting him, and even when he gets down a little bit, the team is always there for him. But 250 yards rushing, touchdowns of 71 and 82. So again, as you said, he'll be one of the spotlights in the state this week.
256-234-6221. If you are out, watch the football game. We'd love to hear from you. Make sure to stay tuned in. We'll have Kevin Kill call in at 6:15. He'll talk about that huge victory for Dable High School this past week as they take down leads in a huge region contest. So congratulations to the Dable Tigers. We'll let Kevin talk a little bit more about that. Let's stay here with Benjamin Russell, though. And you said something that has started to jump out at me. And look, they've still got some games to play, so they've got to continue. But there is something about this group. They seem to like each other. They don't get down on one another. You don't see anybody yelling at somebody on the field. You see people picking each other up. I know a lot of that's got to do with coaching, and we've got as good a coaching as there is out there. But a lot of it's got to do with the kids, and the kids just buying into the system and doing what the coaches are preaching to them. And I get that feel. I mean, I'm proud to go out there and watch them every Friday night.
Yeah, and it's so much fun and exciting to watch a team who is excited to go out there and play each week. And as you said, from week 1 to week 8 now, they've done so much in between there. And with 2 weeks left in the season, games against Chilton County and Valley, I expect them to take care of business there. But going into the season, if you'd have said the Wildcats would be 9-1 going into the playoffs, I would have taken that very, very handily.
Brett Pritchard looked down the schedule or looked at the playoff bracket, so get on to him if I'm wrong here, but I'll run down how he sees it playing out. Let's at the Wildcats, we'll host the first round of the playoffs. Remember, there was 11 weeks to play 10 football games. We're going to have played all 10 of those in the first 10 weeks, so we'll have an off week leading into week 11. Then we'll welcome in. Looks like Wetumpka could be the team. There's several teams in that region that are fighting for that third place in the region. Wetumpka, Stanhope, Elmore, Parks Crossing just defeated Carver this past week, so they're in the mix there. But right now, if everything were to end the way it is today, we would welcome Wetumpka in here for the first round of the playoffs. If we were able to beat them, we'd go on the road for Spanish Fort. Welcome McAdory in the third round and the fourth round. I think it's Opelika. So it's a tough path down the playoffs, but the South side's very talented. North, too. I mean, look what Clay Chalkville did. I'll have Jeff Sintel on with me on Sports Blitz Live tonight from 7 to 9. He was covering that Clay Chalkville and Shades Valley game this past Friday. Excuse me, it got
Saturday.
postponed into Saturday, but it was a huge game in 6A also. But it's a tough bracket, but it's a bracket that I tell you, I just like the way we're playing heading to the playoffs.
And for the most part, we talked about it coming into the season, how 6A now was going to be a little more balanced than some communities that weren't necessarily able to make it past the second or third round. We're going to have that opportunity. And now it's traditional powers such as an Opelika and Benjamin Russell. Now the emergence of Spanish Fort the last several years. So I think this is going to be a very, very deep playoff bracket, if you will. But if Benjamin Russell defensively can continue to play the way they have been, because I haven't seen a front this aggressive in a very long time. And then they have such great athletes in the secondary that it makes it hard to move the ball.
You know, I think that we can play better defensively, honestly. I do. The last couple of weeks, we've given up some runs. I think we can shore that up. And I don't know why it is, but I think that we can play better defensively. And we'll need to once we get into the playoffs. There's going to be some knockdown dragouts for us to win some. I think we can score against some of the better teams, but it's not going to be high scoring. It's just not our MO unless we're just that much more talented than the opposing team. Some unsung heroes out there. I think Cole Grogan's doing an outstanding job kicking the football. Sean Rape had his surgery this past week. All signs point to that went extremely well, so we're hopeful that Sean, everything will work out for him, not only for football but for baseball also. But Cole has stepped in. He's got a great leg there. He's doing a great job with the kicking duties.
3 touchbacks Friday.
Yeah, I love the way our secondary's playing. I love Rodney Carroll and Key Kendrick. I think they get after it. The other two at the safeties get a lot of the pub, but those two, I think, are playing as well as anybody out there. That's just some that we'll highlight. Trey Edwards is the top tackler on the team. He's leading the team by double digits in tackles. He had 52 going into last week in just 6 football games, so that's a big number for Trey Edwards, who's only a junior defensive end, probably one of the best that we've got. I think he puts 10, 15 pounds on. I know he runs like a deer, so he's got to be a combine freak. He's got a chance to move on and have some good chances to get some big looks in college. Scott, we'll close here. Benjamin Russell, this week they'll take on Bally. Bally defeated that Oxford team that we saw last week. It was a shocker, I guess, week 2 or 3 of the season. We've heard Valley's very talented. They're a mid-range 500, I think, on the record, but they always have great talent. So we'll welcome them into the Sportsplex this Friday.
Yeah, and you want to go out on top coming. This will be our last home game, so you want to make sure that you put on a good show on senior night. So that'll definitely be something that the team will want to celebrate. But I wanted to talk about, before we go to break real quickly, the offensive line play. But you have Daniel Bland there and Stuart Ward. Daniel Bland 4 pancakes, Stuart Ward 3, and that's our bread and butter there. When we're able to move the ball with that big offensive line there, they're going to be real competitive going forward.
800-782-0108, 256-234-6221. Let's go ahead and take another break here on the Lake Martin Sports Roundup. When we come back, Kevin Kill will talk about the Dayville Tigers' huge victory over Leeds this past week. More of the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup right after this.
All right, you're off. I'm about to get Kevin. 3, 2, 1. Take it away.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining the Lake Martin Sports Roundup Show, live here on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill. This segment is brought to you by Langley Funeral Home, and again, as well as with the rest of our sponsors, we thank them for being a part of the show. Right now, we want to welcome in play-by-play announcer for Dable High School, Kevin Keel. Kevin, thanks for joining the show.
Oh, guys, glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Well, I know Dable's riding pretty high right now. They pulled the upset this past week against number one ranked Leeds Green Wave. What was the atmosphere like this past Friday, and what were your thoughts on the game as a whole?
I thought Dable played, very well, probably about as good as we could. The passing game still ain't 100% clicking, but hey, it's coming around. Two big passes completed to Shondarius Jennings to set us up for scoring. Atmosphere started out a little slow, but it picked up as the business picked up.
Yeah, and at times this year, the Tigers have been feast or famine with their play, and really good or really bad at times. But do you think the victory over Leeds can provide enough momentum for them to have some sustained success as the season comes to an end?
Well, we can only hope so. I mean, it's not going to hurt us, but I don't know of anything else that could or would inspire them more than last Friday's game. I mean, they played their hearts out. Finally got a break or two. Something went our way here and there, where earlier in the year it's kind of been going against us, and not making excuses, because at times the Tigers have not played well. But just excited to go into Elmore County with that big win under our belt.
We're here with Kevin Keel, play-by-play announcer for Dable High School. And Kevin, you can't spell Dable without D. And even with the team's offensive struggle at times, the defense has been the one constant. How impressive is this unit, in particular, such players as Anthony Jennings and Jaquan Alves?
Oh, looking good. And, don't leave out Jalen Johnson. He was a big force Friday night. But, yeah, those guys, the defense playing lights out. Munford I don't know what happened to us in Munford. We'd just soon forget that game, but give Munford credit. They found something that worked against our defense, but I think we changed a few things last week, so maybe Leeds run into something, they didn't see on film that we had changed. But, yeah, I mean, the big guys are definitely getting it done on defense.
And you mentioned Kyle Jones when we first started with the interview, and this definitely had to be one of his best games, over 100 yards on the ground, one touchdown, one that set the tone, 65-yard rusher, and as you said, two big completions in the game as well. Can you elaborate on how he has progressed during the year?
Yeah, you can just tell with each game he's getting a little more confident. And, it's paying off. And they moved Shondarius out and, basically just, chunked it up to him, and the big man's able to come down with it. But Cal has made some good passes, throughout the years, throughout the season, that have actually hit our guys right in the hands in stride. And we just haven't been able to come down with those. That's points. If we catch several of those. So, but yes, confidence is getting to be better and better each week.
And tied with Leeds for number one in the region right now. With 2 games left, I guess as Dable gets ready to make this playoff run, what is the team's biggest area of concern?
Well, we just, of course, we'd like to see more offensive firepower. And, I was in practice yesterday, and they're working on that. Defense just needs to stay where it's at. If it can improve, that would be great. But if the way they're playing, it would be a tall order for them to get any better. But, Dable's in a good position. They're in the driver's seat. Beat Hanley and beat Elmore County, you win the region. Win one of them, you finish third. And lose both of them, you have the playoffs. But, there's nothing like controlling your own destination.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, you guys take on Elmore County, as you said, next week. What are your thoughts on that game as you get ready for this game this week? Excuse me.
Well, I tell you what, last year, Elmore County came to Dable and probably played us as good as anybody did before the playoffs. So, through the third quarter, it was nip and tuck, and then Dable was able to go ahead and put them away. But that game right there was just back and forth. So hopefully, we can jump on them early as we have the past couple of weeks here, get out and get the first score and then basically hand it over to your defense. But Elmore County will be a challenge as they play Dable well as they did last year.
Well, that's Kevin Kill, play-by-play announcer for Dable High School. Congratulations on the big win Friday, and good luck against Elmore County this week. We'll go ahead and take another break. When we return, we'll have members of the Elliott City Youth Parks and Rec flag football team. More Lake Martin Sports Roundup right after this.
All right, you're off. Three, two, one. Take it away.
Welcome back to the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup Show, live here in location at JR Sports Bar and Grill. Just had a great segment with Kevin Kill, play-by-play announcer for the Dable Tigers, and as they celebrate their big win over Leeds this past Friday and get ready for Elmore County. But right now we want to welcome in Blake Self, and as we'll also have in a moment some of his players up here. But Blake is the coach of one of the youth flag football teams here in Alexander City. So, Blake, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Good to be here.
Yeah, so before we went on air, I was asking you, how's it been going? And the first thing you said is fun. So can you describe how this season has been going for us?
Well, to start off with, it's just something to see these 5- and 6-year-old kids get out and get to play football and not have to worry about contact. And, they can learn the fundamentals, instead of having to watch your blind side or worry about what's going to happen. So it's been great.
So you talk about the fundamentals. So when you're getting ready for a game, or I don't know if you have practice, I'm assuming you do. Have they grasped the material pretty well?
Yeah, they're getting the habits of getting in a huddle, doing jumping jacks, push-ups, doing it as a team, like football's supposed to be.
Gotcha. And before we bring them up, I also wanted to ask you, I don't know if y'all have records or not, but how's that been going?
Yeah, we have records. I'm a firm believer that if we're going to play a sport, let's let the kids learn to be winners. And right now we're 2-1. Had a tough game 2 weeks ago. Played the Panthers, and I advise anybody in the area to come out and support these boys and watch them. It's free of charge. We play on the lower softball fields, Field C. And we just love to have the community come out and support them.
How many teams are in the league?
We had 4 teams this year, and my goal is to get it as big as it'll go.
That's good. That's good. Well, Blake, if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and bring up your players here, and we'll get Randy to help us.
Hey, buddy, come on up. Scotty, I'm going to let them say their name and the position they play.
My name is Zach, and I play quarterback.
Good job. Thank you, buddy. Name and your position.
My name is Caleb, and I play tight end.
Good job. Caleb, tight end. Come on, buddy. Big boy right here.
Yeah.
My name's Eli, and I play center.
I hear you. Center. Those are important positions. Come on. I bet this is an athlete right here.
That's right.
My name is Jacob, and I play receiver.
Good job. Thank you, Jacob. Come on, buddy. I think it's the quarterback.
My name Brandon. I play quarterback.
Good job. Quarterback right there. Thank you, Brandon. Come on up, buddy.
My name is Jay, and I play wide receiver.
Another wide receiver. Thank you. Come on up.
My name is Keegan, and I'm the backup seeker.
All right. Thank you. All right. Come on, buddy. Well, we got a tackle on the way out. All right. Come on. You do good.
My name is Shia, and I play quarterback.
Quarterback. Good job. So thank y'all for coming up, and we appreciate y'all coming out. Love to have you on again.
All right, we'll be here next Tuesday.
Absolutely. But if anybody in the community is interested in catching y'all play, when's the next time that they come?
We play Thursday night at 5:30, and we play at 6:30. The games are approximately 40 minutes, have 2 20-minute halves, and about a 3-minute halftime. And it's great football.
Absolutely. Almost as great a football as what our fantasy football teams have been doing, but we'll discuss that at a later date. Blake and I share the same fantasy football league and just haven't been going that well.
Well, you know, I was talked to by Brandon Fennell, and he's eating it up right now, but, you know, we got something for him.
Absolutely. Well, Blake, we appreciate you and your team coming home, and good luck the rest of the season.
All
We'll
right.
go ahead and take another break. More of the Lake Martin Sports Roundup show live on location at Jar Sports Bar and Grill right after this.
All right, you're off. 1. Take it away.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup. Randy Lee alongside Scott Hardy this evening. And Scott, great to have good guests up here. And let me tell you, we have been doing this 8 years now. And by the way, Kendall Graveman that was on a couple of weeks ago, he so easily told us that he has moved through. He was a quarterback here at Benjamin Russell, and he remembers coming on the program. He's moved on to Mississippi State, where he played for 4 years. He's moved on to a couple of years in the minors and up to the majors, and we're still sitting here talking local sports. So I say all of that meaning those kids that were lined up down that rail, you'll be looking in about 12, 13 years. They'll be the ones you'll be calling out there on the field. Scott, it's fun. We enjoy talking about the local area athletes, and we're excited so many of them are out there playing.
Yeah, and it gets some exposure that maybe people may not have even known that there was a flag football league. And so this gives a platform for any of the area athletes and their coaches and teams to come up here, and we can spotlight them in their activities.
800-782-0108, 256-234-6221. I know you talked to Kevin, but I wanted to take a little bit more time. Look, when you beat Leeds, you deserve double time on Daybell's side, because this Leeds team, they really haven't had a close football game, Scott. They took down Madison Academy. I watched that one. Kerryon Johnson had a good ending to the football game, but I felt throughout that unless Leeds turned the football over, they were going to win it. And they did end up winning that football game, but I'm interested to hear. I was tied up down here, but interesting to hear. Kevin Keel had to be excited by the way this defense continues to play. 8 sacks on the game Friday, and that was one of the main things he said. Anthony Jennings and Alves as well, Jaquan Alves, both had great games. I think, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 8 or 9 players all had more than 10 tackles. And so defensively, you're going to have to come with it if you're going to play a team like Daybell. And it kind of blinds or masks, rather, some of the offensive struggles that they've had. But in a game where Cal Jones can do what he did like this past Friday, I think that limits his opportunity to have the one thing I noticed with Cal is as the season progresses, he starts making more and more plays. And when you're looking down, I know he had a leg injury, so he's coming back from some injuries last year. It takes a little while to get your feet under you. I've been hearing this kid's name since he was young. I mean, I've been coaching in the youth leagues here in Alexander City with the group that's the junior class since they were 6, 7, and 8 years old, and Cal was the guy over in Daybell, so you knew that. And he has become really a playmaker. And when you can take 13 attempts for 113 yards and a touchdown, and they put 20 points may not sound like a lot. From the lead against the Leeds team I saw, that's pretty good offensive output.
I mean, they were the number 1 team in 4A. So
they were a top 5 power team in the state. They were by far the highest ranked team power-wise. And the Power 20 are the top 20 teams in the state, barring classification. That's just if they were just to throw the ball out there on the field, no matter what classification, those were the top 20. They've been sitting around number 5 for several weeks. That tells you how much the state thought about that Leeds program. And they've won 2 state titles in the last 5 or 6 years. I know Brett and I have caught at least 2 of them. They got one of the better coaches in the state. It was an outstanding win for Daybell. So hopefully Daybell can carry this momentum over into the playoffs. Let's go back to the phone lines. Caller, you're on the Lake Martin Sports Roundup.
Yes. What do you think about Auburn being in their position? I think this is a great position for them to be in. I think they're going to do somewhat of what they did last year, getting a loss out of the way. And I think they was very much in the game with Mississippi State. They spotted them 14 points. So, and then to play like they did and to still was in it until the last few minutes of the fourth quarter. I like Auburn chances to repeat what they did last year, at least to make it. And I think they'll capitalize on getting there and win the national championship.
Well, hey, who are we talking to tonight?
This is Coach Rogers down here in Daybell.
Coach Rogers, thank you, buddy. Congratulations on that big win for Daybell this past weekend. Y'all carry that momentum over. Okay, buddy?
Thank you, sir.
And we'll talk a little bit about it. But, look, we're 2 Auburn fans sitting up here, Luke getting the night off on Sports Blitz. So you're going to hear positives coming out of us also. There are some – I have some worries watching the ball game. First off, rushing attack outside of Nick Marshall in big football games. Now, Auburn outran Mississippi State last weekend, 232 to 223. Don't know exactly what Nick Marshall ended up with. I can give you those numbers. Well, he had 100 yards of those rushing. So Auburn had 132 yards rushing outside of Nick Marshall. I just don't see big play capabilities out of Cap. I think he's a good back. He's a 4.5-yard 4.7 yard per carry type of guy. I know that Trey Mason was a 5.5 yard, but it's a whole yard difference per carry, and a lot of them that he bounced out of the back end that you held your breath and you knew, like in the championship game, he'd go 40, 45 yards. Unfortunately, a little too early in the championship game, but nonetheless, he had that type of playmaking abilities. I think Rock Thomas does there, but that's where I'm a little worried. I'm worried about the offensive line and the running game, to be honest with you.
That's where I wanted to start, and I know we'll dive into this during Sports Blitz, but if you look at the offensive line, you had Greg Robinson, who was on Monday Night Football last night, who was number 3 pick in the draft. Jay Prosh was arguably probably our most important player, allowing Trey Mason to running behind Trey Mason. So when you lose those 2 players, plus defensively with no pass rush with D Ford and Carl Lawson, you essentially lose your 2 best defensive players, then you're going to have some problems there. So our inability to pass rush and inability to get any big players running the ball. I really think that Sean Coleman was going to be somebody that could come in and replace him. He hasn't played that bad. Now, Saturday was definitely his worst game of the season, but as long as teams continue to play how Mississippi State and Kansas State played against Auburn, where they don't crash in and they're just coached well, then it's going to be tough for them to move the ball.
Always really wondered, and when you watch good high school teams that are coached well, they don't lose containment on the outside, no matter what. If you're coached, and if you've ever played an option team, your coach, if you played corner, or you played outside, or you played end, is contain, lose it inside, merge everything back to the middle, and that's what you saw. I don't think Mississippi lost containment once Saturday. Did Mississippi State lose containment on the outside one time Saturday?
No, because Nick Marshall, that's where his bread and butter has been, getting those outside rushes, and that was never an available option Saturday. And I don't know. I still think we talked to Andy a little bit, Andy Graham with Sports Call a little bit before our show, and I don't think Auburn played that badly because statistically it did look even. Now, Luke Robinson also wrote an article there in the paper, and if you look at the stats, it doesn't really indicate how poorly Auburn played in critical conditions or in situations. But, again, I know we'll dive into that a little bit
we'll
later.
dive into it. I think the biggest thing, Mississippi State is as good as we thought. I think they may be a little bit better than we thought. I really do. I think they're physical. Defensively, I think they're good enough to stand up, and they got a quarterback that can bring it home.
That's the key.
They got a guy that when you need 3 yards, he runs for it. He's Cam Newton. I mean, he just says, it's third down and 4. I'm about to run a quarterback draw, and good luck to you. And if at best you're going to hold me a yard short, and I'm going to run it again on 4th and 1. Try to stop me. So Can we combat that? I'd hope that we have a chance to play them again. Let's continue to run down this. Got about 2 or 3 more minutes left here on this segment. Dable, as we mentioned, defeated Leeds 20-14. Dable moves to 5-3, 3-1 in the region. They hold the edge there in the region now over Leeds because they both have only 1 loss. But Leeds has that loss to Dable. Cal Jones with 4-14, passing for 73 yards. He had 113 yards rushing with a touchdown. Anthony Jennings, what a night for him. 16 tackles, 7 hurries, a 3-yard touchdown. Jaquan Alves, 16 tackles, 3 sacks. This kid is a playmaker. He jumps off the field. When I see him on the replays, I say, that's the one I want right there, number 10. Alves a really good player for Dable.
Yeah, and they've got so many out there, and you look at those 2, but Kevin Kill named several other players that have been contributing well on defense, and their defensive line play has to be good for those linebackers to be making the type of plays that they're making. But, again, I think Dable has gotten their swagger back a little bit. We talked about this being the game that could catapult them momentum-wise and have some sustained success going toward the playoffs.
Reeltown picks up a big victory over Woodlawn this past week. I don't think it was Woodlawn.
It was
pretty sure it was Woodland.
Oh, okay. Well, I apologize.
Woodlawn, unless they went up to
Birmingham
and played.
Yeah, my bad, man.
I think it was Woodland. Reeltown wins 26-8. They moved to 6-1 on the season, 3-0 in the area. Rico Stewart's an outstanding player for them. 13 touches, 172 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ed Carricker had 2 sacks. They'll take on Randolph County for homecoming. Reeltown doing what they're doing. They're playing pretty well this year. Look out 2A. I think they're as talented, if not more talented, than anybody they'll see in 2A.
They can just stay healthy these last couple of games going into the playoffs. I think that's going to be my pick going for 2A. Rico Stewart was questionable coming to the game, but that's why he only had 13 touches. But big win for Reeltown.
Horseshoe Bend loses to Ranburn 41-7. Drew Hill did have 66 yards rushing. He had the 1 touchdown run. It was a 43-yard scamper. Jackson Sexton, 42.3 yards per punt. They were down 35-0 at the first half. 2 first downs in the first half. It was a tough loss for Horseshoe Bend.
Yeah, they just weren't able to do anything offensively. And if you read any of the quotes from Coach Franklin, he was a little upset, I think, at some of the efforts they got during the first half. He talked about having to possibly play some 8th or 9th graders. He said he didn't have a problem with that if it did step up, but hopefully they can get it together.
Central Coosa moves to 0-7 on the season, 0-4 in the region. They lose to Beulah 18-12. Trey Royal had a 65-yard touchdown reception. Rod Whetstone a 3-yard touchdown run. They'll take on Montgomery Academy. Just a tough season so far for Central Coosa.
Yeah, and I thought this was a game that they would actually have an opportunity to win, and it was tied up going in really going into overtime there, and they give up a Hail Mary to lose the game. But they take on Horseshoe Bend, and that'll be I think, their last opportunity to get a victory.
We're going to go ahead and take another break here, Scott. I want to quickly say before I head out, and I'm heading over to Sports Blitz Live tonight, you'll be hosting with me. I know you'll talk about it on this last 2 or 3 minute segment that you'll have, but y'all had a great trip over to Starkville. Mississippi State, unfortunately, takes it to the Auburn Tigers 38-23, but you got to see a great thing. We had Kendall Graveman up here with us 2 or 3 weeks ago. We've been very proud of his progression quickly through the minor leagues all the way up to Major League Baseball. You and Justin Clayton were able to go over, get some pictures, not only of the game, but of Kendall's ceremony. I looked at the scoreboard behind Kendall, and it was 21-0 when he went out on the field. So I have a feeling there was a whole lot of cowbelling going on while he was out there. But it was nice for Mississippi State to recognize him and how quickly he's moved through the minor league ranks.
Oh, he's a Starkville legend. We went over there, and everybody knew who Kendall was, and I'll dive into that a little bit more in this next segment. But he got to do game day backstage passes for that. He and his brother Kyle Graveman, a good fan of the show. But it was really awesome to see that, and he did come out there. It was right after it stopped raining a little bit, and he came out there, and it was 21-0. But he had his cowbell going, and the whole crowd was into it. But congratulations to him on what a great season. And I saw him earlier today, always doing what Kendall does, working. He came and ran with the baseball and football team today during second block P for Benjamin Russell. So always trying to stay in shape.
Yeah, outstanding, and glad to see that happens. And look, we love maroon around here. So if I ever got to wear an outside color other than orange and blue, I'll put my maroon on. And actually did it a little bit as we went back when Mississippi State played Auburn at Auburn. I said, I don't know anybody at Auburn. And I promise you, if he's pitching, I'm not going to be cheering for Auburn. So went ahead and threw my maroon on that afternoon. And look, excited for all that he's been able to do and continuing to follow him as he's just getting started. Hopefully a long career in the majors. Scott, I'll let you talk about that. We've got a lot of other players that are moving on. They're playing in the college ranks. Cameron Blankenship's playing for what is becoming a powerhouse here in this state. Man. I'm telling you, UAB is really showing out. And if you read the article, if you haven't, we'll put it up on our Sports Blitz. Bill Clark raved about as much as you can rave about Cameron Blankenship this past week with a play that he made, not this week, but the week before. He said it was a program-building play. A play that was, I think, on a fumble or an interception return. He came back and he made the tackle. And his teammate said, look, he's always first whenever their linemen are out there running. We know what a great athlete he is. He can run with all of us pretty much with his size. He's kind of freakishly built that way. But Bill Clark just raved and raved. So, Justin, if you're back there listening, please push that out. That was a great article from UAB on Cameron Blankenship. We're real proud of him. We're real proud of a lot of other players. I'll go ahead and step aside. When we come back, we'll have Sports Blitz Live from 7 to 9, but Scott will close out the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup. More from the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup right after this.
All right, you're out. 3, 2, 1. Take it away.
Welcome back to the last segment of the Sportsbook's Lake Martin Sports Roundup Show, live here on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill. About 9 minutes to go in the show, and this has been one of the better shows we've had in a while. I had an opportunity to interview Kevin Keel, play-by-play announcer for the Dadeville Tigers, as they had a big win over Leeds, 20-14, led by Cal Jones, 113 yards, 1 touchdown, one going for 65 yards. And we also had an opportunity to interview Blake Self and his youth flag football team, and we look forward to seeing how they progress and getting the opportunity to talk to them about their Super Bowl coming up in a few weeks. But we also had the chance to do a little Benjamin Russell Chelsea talk and how big that game was for them. And going forward, they will have the opportunity to take on Valley this Friday. So they should have an opportunity to lock everything up, finish the season 9-1, taking on Chilton County in Week 10. We also discussed, as we said, Dadeville versus Leeds, 20-14 for them. Benjamin Russell, 42-13. Reeltown, 26-8. And Horseshoe Bend losing to Ramber, 41-7. But this is one of my favorite parts of the show. We do our Lake Martin area athletes, and we'll start where we always usually start, and that's with Kyle Caldwell with University of West Alabama. On the day, he was 17 for 29, 248 yards, 3 touchdowns, 10 rushing attempts for 40 yards, and his team's win over Florida Tech. LaPrentice Gunn, 3 tackles in his loss to Southeastern University, and he's, again, somebody who has usually been at the top of their leaderboard in the tackle game, and although he didn't have one of his better games this past Saturday, in the top 2 in his team in tackles. Cameron Blankenship, as Raina said, has been getting rave reviews from his coach Bill Clark, as they moved to 4-2 over a win over North Texas, and they're actually playing some of the better ball in this state. As Raina said, we see Auburn, Alabama. We don't focus as much on UAB and some of the other teams in the state. But, again, Cameron Blankenship helping UAB improve to an impressive 4-2 on the season with a big win over North Texas. Justin Tuck, 3 tackles and a loss to the San Diego Chargers. And I hate to say it, but I hate he left New York to go to Oakland. The wins there aren't the same as New York, but the Giants not playing as well either. And Kendall Graveman. I wanted to stop there and talk a little bit about how the weekend went. As Randy mentioned, Justin Clayton, our producer, and I had the opportunity to go over to Starkville Saturday. And as an Auburn fan, as I said at the beginning of the show, the outcome wasn't necessarily what I would have hoped, but I did have the opportunity to see Mississippi State, which is Kendall's alma mater, recognize him during the first quarter, and it was wonderful to see the cowbells were going. And as much as I hate those things now, my ears are just now recovering from that trip. But what Kendall did this past season definitely deserves some recognition, going through 4 levels of minor league baseball in one season and ultimately making it up to the major league level is something to be impressed with. And as Alexander City native, we're definitely proud of him and all the things that he's been doing. But I hate it that he got to do it in a Mississippi State win. But again, congratulations to him as well as the rest of our Lake Martin area athletes. And I didn't have a chance to really talk about Faulkner, but we do have an onslaught of players playing for Faulkner as well. Austin Monk has had a tackle in the game this past Saturday, and they have a JV and varsity team, so some of our players are split, and I know Tobias Russell is getting redshirted this year, so hopefully we'll be able to catch up with them as the season comes to an end, and we'll check on them and how their season went. But we'll get ready to wrap this thing up and look forward to hosting Sportsbooks Live with Randy. We'll talk Alabama, Texas A&M, big game for them in Tuscaloosa this weekend. We'll also dive into Auburn, Mississippi State, a game that, again, as a Tiger fan, you can't hold your head too badly. They had a chance and they had their opportunities. At one point, they had 4 turnovers in the third quarter, and it was just an opportunity for Auburn to take advantage of those when they didn't. But we enjoyed you guys listening to us. This will take care of the Lake Martin Sports Roundup tonight. Thanks for listening. Sportsbooks Live is up next.
All right, you're out.